in this example, I'm going to do a monohybrid cross. But in this example, what I'm going to do is actually show you the cross all the way to the F2 generation, which is actually the generation after the F1. So in this example, what I'm going to use is hair colour. So the characteristic will be hair colour. And the options we're going to have here are black hair, which I'm going to tell you is dominant, and red hair, which is going to be recessive. Now in terms of having letters to represent these alleles, what we're going to use is a capital B for black hair, but this time for red hair, we're going to use a small b. Now logic would imply that you'd assume it would be an R that you would use, R for red, but we always go by the letter that's used for the dominant characteristic. So if the capital was capital B here, the recessive would always be a small letter but of the same letter, so a lowercase of the same letter. Alright, so the example I'm going to use then is a parent in the P generation who is homozygous dominant. Right, so that means that that parent is homozygous dominant, and therefore, in terms of hair colour, they'll be dominant homozygous, they are black haired. So if I tell you that they are black haired, this term describes the phenotype. Black hair is their phenotype, what they look like, what their physical appearance is. And their genotype, I've said, is homozygous dominant. So homozygous means two of the same, and two of the same that are dominant. So two capital B's this time. Now sometimes this can be described as true breeding, but that will depend on the terminology used in the question. So either homozygous or true breeding. The second parent is going to have red hair. Now that person can only have red hair if they don't have a black allele. Okay, so for example, if a person is homozygous dominant with two capital B's, they would have black hair. If they are heterozygous and have a big B and a small b, they would still have black hair because they have the dominant allele there. Okay, and that would show as black hair in their phenotype. The only way that they can have red hair is if they have two small b's. Okay, with no capital there. So they only have red hair if they have two small b's. So this parent here will have two small b's as their genotype. So what we do now is we do a Punnett square to cross and find out what their children could potentially be, to find out what the F1 generation will potentially be. Okay, so we put parent 1 up the top, but again it doesn't matter where they go. And parent 2 down the side. Then we pull this top one down and the small one across. Top one down, small one across, and repeat that. Now what we see now is every single potential child that they could have, every time they have a child, would always have the same genotype, would always have big B, small b. So their genotype would be big B, small b. And now from their genotype we work out their phenotype, what their physical appearance is, what they look like. So if they have a capital B, a dominant allele, that means that they will then have black hair. Remember that dominant capital B is black hair. Now, when we want to cross to the F2, the second generation, normally what we do is actually cross two of the F1. Now this is bizarre for humans, we don't do this in humans, But in plants and in other animals, we can breed then sisters or brothers together, people from the same, or animals from the same litter, for example, or plants from the same batch of children. So what we'd do is we'd take the people from the F1 with capital B, small b, so heterozygous, and cross them together. Okay, so this is the genotype, and they would cross them together and do a Punnett square to show you. Alright, so we put one parent over here and one parent over here. What we're going to do then is do the same as we did before. Pull this top one down into this box and this one across. Do the same, but this time we use a capital first and then the small. Capital and then lowercase, and then small and small. Now this is the first example where we have different genotypes, 3 different genotypes potentially for their children. So this is what's called the F2 generation. And we have genotypes which are quite different to before. So we look at this, we have one person, one potential child with big B, big B. Okay, we have 2 potential children, big B, small b. And we have 1 potential child with 2 small b's. Okay, and then we figure out their phenotypes from that. This person is a capital B, and therefore they'd be black-haired, and so do these people. So when we look at their phenotype ratio, what we'll see is they have 3 potential black hair and 1 potential red hair. Now that means that any child that these 2 have, there's a 3 in 4 chance, a 75% chance that they'd be black-haired. Okay, or a 1 in 4 or a 25% chance of them being red-haired. So 75% black to 25% red, okay?